Just called for some more cheers. I mean, you're pretty good at that. Did you say C2E2? I guess we don't have a moderator. We aren't very moderate, are we? No, they're in real trouble. So, no moderates, so I guess there's really not that much to talk about except, you know, how's Jill?
What? But the problem is I do know him. We should talk about that. That's the.
And I know Brian all too well. You don't want to know. Yeah. Anything on TV tonight?
Favorite authors?
They answered the question.
I wonder why they didn't give us a moderator.
Yeah, because we are not moderate people, so this could get really ugly real fast.
I guess we could talk about process. You guys want to know about that kind of stuff?
Yeah!
Like how we would plot this beast that we just finished? Like how we would do voices of the characters?
Yeah, but Brian has this strange thing. Brian hears voices from people who aren't there. It's a condition. I mean, psychologists have a name for it. But,
yes, it's called brilliance.
No flash photography,
paranoid
please.
schizophrenia, brilliance, yeah. But yeah, there are a lot of voices are used when you put together this kind of story because one of the secrets to plotting comics is to turn yourself into a completely goofy little kid, and so you start acting out the characters. After all, we are talking about characters who can fly and run around in skin-tight outfits. So even though you get very serious about how you treat them, underneath it all, these are fantasies that do appeal to the child almost. So we tend to act a bit like children when we're putting together the stories.
Yeah, I know like a lot of people think that we're very sort of serious and dark.
Oh yeah, two real guys you've never met.
Right.
You cannot plot this stuff unless you have a sense of humor about it.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I'd go over to the studio and we'd start working on a scene or something. It's like this, you'd say like, I want to do this sort of bit, this moment. I'm like, okay, so how do we get there? Like, and then Batman says, oh, okay, then Carrie says.
You really haven't lived until you've seen Brian Azzarello turn into Carrie Kelly before your very eyes.
Yeah. Do it.
No, he's got to have the costume. We didn't bring it with him.
It doesn't work without the costume.
Do it without clothes.
I haven't been there. You don't want to be there.
They didn't check IDs at the door, did they? And so, and then we're working like this. A lot of story just comes out of pretending that these characters are real. You know?
Yeah.
Where, all right, if somebody can fly, they can be someplace. How long does it take? How long does it take for Superman to fly to?
Yeah.
In between Krypton or Gotham City and Metropolis. What's he do on the way? Or the Flash? Like that was one of the things about the Flash that you would bring up. Well, that just show him getting there.
Yeah. The whole trick with the Flash, I think, is that, or at least, well, here's my feeling about the Flash is that nobody was ever going to draw a guy running better than Carmine Infantino did in the old days. So why draw him running? It's been done. So I thought the only way to handle the Flash was just he's already there. and so, you know, when Superman broke into the Batcave and Batman just deployed all his buddies to take him out, Superman's almost, you know, all of a sudden, you know, Flash shows up and says hello, and Batman's covered in bombs that blow up all over him. So yeah, it was kind of like with the Atom. You've got to reverse the trick. Flash has already got to be there, and with the Atom, he doesn't get small. Everything else gets big, and you got a visually exciting character.
Yeah, so we didn't really, you know, we didn't do the Flash running, but we did have him breaking his legs and being stopped.
Yeah, Brian's got a very, very healthy mind. Breaking Flash's legs.
Only topped by cutting off Green Lantern's hand.
Yes! Congratulations. Sure.
Yeah.
Zorro.
You know, we were talking yesterday about the Shadow, too.
The Shadow, yeah.
Most of you are too young to know who the Shadow is.
The Shadow knows!
Well, if you don't know the Shadow, you really don't know Batman. Because you don't know Batman's dad. And the comic book heroes all came from the old pulp magazines in the 1920s and 30s. And you see the origins of characters like Batman in the Shadow. And in Superman, you can see his origins in Doc Savage. You don't know who these people are.
Who? It looks like they're setting up mics now. So if you guys have questions and you want to like get in line.
Yeah, because we're dying up here.
We're gonna let you moderate.
Can volunteer to volunteer?
Come to me.
Hi, I'm Luis. I was just wondering if there was ever a major point of conflict when you guys were working together. Like, was there something that you guys like really just couldn't agree on?
Yeah.
Nothing but.
Yeah. I'm not gonna tell you what it was, but yeah. We resolved it.
Yeah, and I'm still walking funny.
Hi there, my name is Will. I'm from Canada, Toronto. Huge fan for both of you.
Hey, Will.
You signed my posters. I actually wanted to volunteer to moderate if you didn't mind, because I love your work. I was hoping that you can talk more about your Daredevil work, which you kind of touched upon today, but Stanley kind of interrupted. Or we can talk about more about Batman Year One, or the original Dark Knight Returns, and how you involved Brian into the process. What made you decide to pick Brian among all the other writers?
Because I was the only one dumb enough to work.
Well, actually, there's a story behind it. One day I was out shopping, and there was this guy who really smelled terrible, and hadn't shaved or washed in days, and was dressed in rags, and said he really wanted to work on this stuff. And I went, hey, didn't you used to write comics? It was Brian, and so we went over to the shelter where he lived and caught
It's all true.
Is someone recording this? Because I want this, and we were planning on publishing this. It's a historical document.
Hello.
Hey.
I'm Bradford. I'm from Chicago. I live around here. My question is for Frank Miller in particular. I noticed there are a couple pivotal scenes in Dark Knight 1 and Dark Knight 2 where Superman frankly gets his ass kicked pretty hard.
He surely does.
I noticed you're wearing a Superman shirt today. I'm interested how do you feel about Superman as a character? Because
Excuse me, it's not just a Superman shirt. Superman is punching out the atom on this shirt.
I couldn't see the whole thing with the
Yeah.
blazer. All right. My question is, how do you feel about Superman? I sense some animosity.
I adore Superman. But I was doing a Batman book, and I wanted Batman to be the hero and very much took his point of view. And it just seems to me that if I were Batman, who would I resent the most? It would be the guy who not only represented a very, very status quo-oriented sense of things, and someone who wanted things to stay just the same when things were pretty rotten, but someone who could fly when I needed a goddamn car. So to me, it was very natural to set up the story so Batman would end up having combat with Superman, and then the fun was finding a way for Batman to actually win the fight, which was by putting him in a big suit of armor and having him have a buddy who could fire kryptonite arrows. But to turn that around, one project I very much want to do is I want to do a Superman project in which he's very much the hero. I'm talking to DC about it and hope to have something announced, but I want to do my version of Superman where he beats the hero.
Thanks so much.
You got it.
Hi, I'm Steve. My question's for Frank. I'm a huge Robocop fan. I was hoping you could talk about your involvement with Robocop and as much or as little as you want.
I was called up one day after Dark Knight came out by John Davison, who was the producer of Robocop, and he invited me to come in and they were having trouble doing a sequel to Robocop, invited me to come in and work on it, and that began a multi-year adventure in writing a movie, which was a much, much bigger and harder task than I ever imagined it would be. And I would say that when it came to everybody involved in Robocop 2, of all of us, I got the best out of the deal. I certainly got a better deal out of it than the audience did. I got a lifetime's worth of experience. I was taken to film school. I saw all the rigors of how a movie is made and all the things that can go wrong. And so by working on a movie that was by anybody's standards an abject failure, I learned a terrific amount and had a great experience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rob. I'm from Chicago. Also a fan of the Man of Bronze. How should I word this? I've noticed through like the Dark Knight 1 and 2 and Batman Year One and All Stars, all that on a personal level, Batman seems a little bit, while incredibly heroic and all that, a bit of a jerk. And I've always wondered, why did you decide to take, the route of making him someone thoroughly unlikable, yet someone we admire?
You found him unlikable in all the incarnations? I thought I only made him unlikable in Batman and Robin the Boy Wonder. Because in Batman and Robin the Boy Wonder, he was arrogant. And he had to make mistakes and screw up badly enough to mature. Well, in Dark Knight, I didn't think he was a jerk. He kind of had an attitude. But if doing the Dark Knight and the Batman and Robin and the Year One series in the sequence I did them was very strange because it was exploring a character from different aspects of his life, but not doing them in order. And also, it was very much affected by who was drawing the ones I didn't draw. Working with David Mazzucchelli was a real study in working with an artist of terrific intelligence and discipline, but with a very, almost a sedate feel for the material that brought it down to earth. Whereas working with Jim Lee, I was working with his explosive vitality. And each one, the artists affected and the different incarnations of the character had to do with the age he was. He's an epic character, and I feel he deserves treatment that reflects that.
Yeah, we talked a lot about that when we were working on this, where he's I think it's a given that he's the smartest guy in the room in DC. The problem with him is he believes it. And that might be where some of your jerk sauce is coming from.
Well, again, Brian, this is one of the things we also discussed, is that's where Carrie Kelly's so important. Because it's the first time in his life that Bruce sits down and goes, uh-oh, she's smarter than I am.
Yeah, where there's somebody he can learn something from. And that's new to him. Or, it's not really new to him, it's new that he admits it. Like, there's other people.
Yeah, he's mature enough to admit
yeah.
it. Because the whole story in my mind of Dick Grayson was that ultimately the kid just never measured up. And so Dick Grayson never recovered for it, neither did Bruce. But Carrie Kelly didn't just measure up. The idea is that that she will surpass the boss. For one thing, she doesn't have the emotional baggage, that's for sure. His parents were murdered before his eyes. Her parents were jerks.
Yeah. She's the first Robin that picked him. It's the other way around.
Most strange thing of all, she's the first Robin with red hair. Now, come on, Robin Redbreast, you know. In red hair.
Thank you very much. Sure.
Hi, my name's Jay Carson, and I'm from Chicago, and I got to tell you, it's an honor to talk to you, Frank. My three favorites are Alex Ross, Mike McMillan, and yourself. And your work on Sin City was just so epic to me. It's like, there's comic books, and then there's this guy. And holy shit, this guy knows what he's doing. And where did you draw your inspiration for Sin City? It's beautiful.
Well, thanks an awful lot. Sin City mainly came from living in New York City and watching really old black and white crime movies on TV late at night, I watched these things nonstop, and when it came out on DVD, I'd collect all of them. And to this day, it's still my favorite kind of movie. And they sunk in, and of course I read the novels too. I used to claim in the old days that it was all based on Dashiell Hammett and Mickey Spillane and all of that. And really, that's true. But the real inspiration was the old movies, because I loved the way they looked. I loved hats like this, and trench coats, and vintage cars, and all of that. And eventually I started coming up with stories that gave me excuses to draw all the stuff I wanted to draw the most.
Definitely the cars are there, the fedoras, all of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Hi, I'm Jacob from Rockford, Illinois, and I just gotta say, Brian, your Batman Europa storyline was like my favorite Batman storyline of all time. And my question is kind of for both of you. What were some of your, how do I want to put this? What kind of drew you to the character of Batman? What made you want to write Batman comics?
You want to take that one, Brian?
He paid me? I'm not really attracted to the characters so much as the people that I'm working with. The first time I did Batman, I did it with Eduardo, I think it was Eduardo. That was the first time we did Batman. Eduardo Rizzo, who I did 100 Bullets with. It was just something different to do, you know? It's really my collaborators draws me to a project, and you know, that having something to say about the character. Otherwise, I mean, there's tons and tons of books I've turned down because, frankly, I got nothing to say about Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah, I jumped in on Batman because I always liked, I've always wanted to crime stories one way or another, but Batman was always my favorite when I was a kid. And I liked him because he couldn't fly. And he needed a car. And then it was just a lot harder to be Batman than to be Superman or Flash. But you know, I also love his motivation. It's so simple. You know, there's nothing radioactive about him. His parents were murdered, and he's out to set things right.
Listen, with Batman, you can always approach him from a different angle. You know,
Yeah,
like you
yeah.
said, I wrote Broken City. Again, Arlo drew that, and that he didn't need to have that costume on. I wrote that thing. That costume was a trench coat. That's all. You know, it was a straight detective story. And I did one with Lee Bermejo. What was it? Batman Deathblow. That was just, he was James Bond in Gotham City. I mean, that character can be anything.
Yeah, we were talking about this before, and the best way I can describe it is Batman's really like a gigantic diamond. You throw it against the wall, you can smash it against the floor, throw it against the ceiling, drop it off a building, you can't break it. Brian's stuff works, my stuff works, Adam West worked. It all works. I'm not joking, Adam West worked just fine. I guess we're done.
Hello, my name is Aaron. I'm from here in Chicago. First off, I just want to say Batman Year One was probably the first comic where I absolutely couldn't put it down.
Thank you.
I had to binge it. I had to read it till the end, right then and there. The question is for both of you. Is there a character that you love so much that you wish you had created?
Here we go again.
Yeah, Batman. We wouldn't be sitting there.
Brother Power the Geek. Somebody got that reference back there.
Well, there's one guy that'll buy that book. Is there a character I wish?
Yeah, Superman. I wish I'd made up Superman. Who doesn't wish he made up Superman? It's a brilliant idea.
And Brian?
No, I don't know. No. The ones I created, the ones that I've created, yeah, okay, I wish I created Marv. How's that?
Thank you.
Fair enough, thank you.
Hi, I'm Alfonso from the south side of Chicago, and my question is, what advice do you have for budding writers in any form of media? Also, I made the t-shirt I'm wearing.
And what was that about the t-shirt? You made it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't understand. The lights are pointed at us, not you. We can't see the damn thing.
Yeah. What you have on to us is a white shirt with a black bar across it. That's what it looks like from here.
It's like Superman blue letters, and it reads, Superman is an immigrant.
Okay.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Undocumented.
Advice.
Absolutely. I guess there shouldn't be a wall between us and Krypton, should there?
That's what was Reagan's Star Wars.
Wall.
You keep those.
Give Trump any more ideas. Only would be pointed outwards.
Advice for young writers is write every day and read. Read.
Read, and the other one is the classic one that you'll get in its Strunk and White book, The Elements of Style, which the first advice I have is buy the book, The Elements of Style by Strunk and White, but the overall message is know your ending. Know where you're headed, otherwise you're going to be wandering through a story.
Yeah. And go out and do stuff.
Oh, get your heart. I remember when Will Eisner was, one time when I was starting my career, I was working on Daredevil, and I was seeking advice from a master all I could, and at one point he threw up his hands over dinner, because Will was a very plain-spoken man. And he said, Frank, there's only so much I can tell you. You just gotta, just move to Paris, get your heart broken. You don't know anything, you haven't lived enough, you know? And it took a few years to catch up with the wisdom of those words.
Yeah. See, like everybody's, you know, you've heard, right, what you know, so you gotta know a lot of shit.
Yeah, and here's another advice from another mentor, was from Neil Adams, when he was just advising on how to draw things. He said, artists don't just know what things look like. Artists know how they work. And he said, so you know, take something apart when you're drawing it, and see how it's held together. And but he, you know, his whole message was that artists, like writers, have to know their material inside and out. But whatever you do, don't just build your fantasies upon fantasies. The work that's done is worth looking at. The good stuff's, you know, worth studying for all it's worth studying. But it comes from somewhere, and all of it comes from reality.
Thank you.
Now go forth and write.
My name is Brandon. I'm from South Bend, Indiana. First, I want to say my first comic I read was Dark Knight Returns, and it kind of paved the way for comics for me in general. The adaptation of Batman is incredible. With DC kind of doing this new movie approach, have you guys ever considered kind of taking a more raw interpretation of your guys' works and approaching that maybe in cinema at all?
You mean making movies out of the comics?
Oh, just Batman in general. I mean...
Doing a Batman movie, that's not the kind of thing you just up and do. They own it big time, and the property's worth billions of dollars. So they kind of come to you.
Would you guys, if you were approached, would you make a more raw interpretation, I guess, of the Dark Knight Returns or anything like that?
Man, I don't know.
There was one project that never got off the ground that I was discussing many years ago.
The one with
Darren Aronofsky, where we're going to do a wild interpretation of Batman Year One. And that was the only case working on Batman where I was the conservative of the pack, where I was the one who said, oh no, that's a little too extreme for Batman. Because Darren's ideas were so wild and so intense that I thought at that point the character would stop being Batman. It would be something brand new. But that, you know, that's as close as I got.
It's really great to be able to do it in comics.
The other thing we got to say is that what Brian and I have is that we're in the strange position of we don't really have to work in the movies. We can sit back and watch them rip us off.
We get to do it at the premieres.
Thank you, guys.
Hello, my name is Tyler, and how are you two today?
We're okay.
Very well.
My question is for you, Mr. Frank Miller.
Yes, Mr. Tyler.
I want to say that you wrote two of my favorite Batman stories, Batman Year One and Batman Returns. The Dark Knight Returns, sorry. And I have a question about Batman Year One. It's a Batman story, but it wasn't really. It was really more of a Jim Gordon story. What was your idea about putting the story in him more than Batman?
What I was playing with there was after doing such a Wagnerian Dark Knight, I wanted to reintroduce Batman from as human a level as possible. And while Bruce Wayne has a narrative throughout Batman Year One, the more important one is Jim Gordon's, because I wanted to introduce Batman as a character through a normal guy's eyes. So you see how strange he was, and to contrast his very pure, almost Lancelot determination with Jim Gordon's foibles. I mean, Jim Gordon's destroying his own marriage and trying to be a commissioner, and trying to be a captain, police captain in a thoroughly corrupt city. And everything in his life is a mess. And here's this pure of heart hero trying to straighten out the rotten town. To me, it was just a wonderful contrast, but it was a switch in perspective, because in Dark Knight, Gordon is I mean, he's one of the voices and he's one of the witnesses to Batman, but in Year One, he really is close to being the lead character.
Yeah, well, he's the humanity in that story.
Yeah,
definitely.
Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Mike from Gurney, Illinois. Actually, the guy from South Bend asked my question, so the only thing I could think of on the spot was, in thinking of your comment about watching movies that rip off your comics, is there a particular actor or actress that portrayed a character where you thought to yourself, oh man, they hit the nail on the head with this, or I really was moved by their performance or the portrayal of the character? Or to put it another way, was there a Batman movie or any superhero movie for that matter where you thought, you know what, the studio's got this one right or something?
Okay, as far as the actors go, and a lot of people might think this is very funny to say, even though it was in no way my version of the character, I thought Michael Keaton's interpretation of Batman was terrific. What was the second question?
If there was just a particular one where you thought they got it right, like for example, I saw a lot of Gary Oldman, that interpretation of Gordon.
Yeah, Gary Oldman was terrific as Gordon, absolutely, yeah.
Thank you.
You bet. And it seems like the one character that nobody can do wrong is Catwoman. All the way back to the TV show, it seems to be that there's always been a good Catwoman around. Yeah, Halle Berry, Michelle Pfeiffer, there's...
Next question.
Hi, I'm Ebony. I'm from Montgomery, Illinois. I'm a huge Sin City fan.
Oh, great, thanks.
It's my favorite movie. I also loved how it was translated to the films. My question is, what were your favorite characters to work with for Sin City?
You mean the comics?
Yes.
Oh, I fell in love with each one as I did them. I mean, they were so different from each other. Each had its own theme. With you know, Marv was a juggernaut. I mean, he was this tortured figure who walked through walls. As a matter of fact, he actually threw himself through a concrete wall at one point. Whereas Dwight was, and he was very much the Mickey Spillane hero, the Mike Hammer character. Whereas Dwight was much more of a kind of a Chandler hero in that he was more intelligent but much more anxious. Anxiety was a real theme of his character, and also he had a classic classic women issues. Let's put it that way. And when it came to later in the series, when I did That Yellow Bastard and did the character of Hardigan that Bruce Willis played, there I got my inspiration from the movies. I was sitting around one day wishing I could do the last Dirty Harry movie And so I sat down and wrote it and turned it into a Sin City. And because Clint Eastwood, I guess, made the character older than Clint Eastwood was at the time. And, you know, since I already had this dancing beauty throughout the Sin Cities, turning her into a lead character was a natural. You know, then we got to making the movies, and along came this, you know, this mousy, homely girl named Jessica Alba to play the part. I guess we suffered through that.
So miscast, so miscast.
Too bad she couldn't dance.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, Frank. My name is Aaron. I'm from Chicago. First of all, Batman and Daredevil are my favorite DC Marvel characters, and I love your work on them. Love you, the creation of Elektra. Marv is my favorite Sin City character. And now that we're on the topic of Sin City, my question is...
He's also everybody's favorite sociopath, I think.
Do you have any more Sin City stories to tell?
As long as I'm around, Sin City's not going to end. That's my mainstay.
Yeah.
I've got the next one planned.
I'm excited for that.
Expect to go back in time for the next one. Way back in time.
Maybe Daddy Boy.
I can tell y'all what it is.
I have the next 2 Sin Cities planned, and both take place in the past. One takes place in the mid-20th century, and the other takes place several hundred years before that.
And I heard a rumor, like, I think it's gonna be like, was it Jackie Boy, his like origins or something? Or?
No. Jackie Boy's been done. I think we saw plenty of him, and he's about as dead as they get. Now, come on, he got part of a gun shoved in his head.
Well, thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Scott. I'm in the Army. We've been assigned to Illinois for about 2 years.
Yes, sir.
My question for you, Frank, is you and your generation are given credit largely for the grittier, more realistic, darker tone of comics.
Sorry.
That arguably set the conditions for the movies that are so successful now. Looking back, does it seem like you had more encouragement, more resistance in your vision for how you wanted to take this character?
Well, first off, the dark, gritty stuff was a lot of that was because things had just gotten so candy pants that somebody had to go somewhere. Oh, sorry, what was the second part of that?
Do you feel like you got more resistance from maybe the people you had to turn product into, or were they more encouraging in this new take on the?
It depends on who it was. Sometimes I would have resistance. There was, I would have resistance from my own editor, but support from my publisher. And other times there would be. I remember at the beginning of Dark Knight, everybody talks about it now as it was immediately met by parade, when in fact it was quite a controversial book when it first came out, and there was resistance on a retailer level, quite in certain regions quite a bit, but then the sales figures came in and everybody got very jolly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jack. I'm from Indiana.
It's Jack.
Hey. Your Wolverine with Chris Claremont is one of my favorite stories of all time. Your Wonder Woman, as you did for New 52, Brian, is one of my favorite stories in recent DC history. I'm just curious on Master Race, like how much collaboration was there? I'm gonna take a couple pictures. 60 Frank, 40 Brian, 50-50, like what's the breakdown? Depends on what
we don't talk. No, there's a lot of give and take.
Yeah, I mean, I walked into it, and he had all these, he you had all these building blocks that were things. I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. It was like a puzzle. I want to do this, and he threw it at me to put it in order. I mean, that was pretty much how it started. And then I came back and said, like, okay, I think this works here, and we started like building a structure out from it. You know, we knew what the ending was. Also, hey writers, know your endings.
Have we said that enough tonight? Know your ending.
Know your endings, because then you can get there. And everything has a point to get to the end.
But, you know, some things certainly were in play from the get-go with me and Brian, which was one of them was that, I mean, there are two aspects of it were undeniable, was that there had to be a generational shift in the material, or else it was just, I mean, how many times can you do, how old can these guys get and still be vertical? So there had to be a generational shift toward the new characters who had been blossoming along anyway. And incidentally, these characters all happen to be women. So there was also a gender shift, all of which seemed to please both of us just as much as possible.
I mean, it was, and that was not like, I don't think it's something that we really paid attention to. Like we said, well, we got to do a gender shift. It was just like the characters were in place. It's like, well, these are the interesting characters to us at this particular juncture in the story. It's like we, Carrie and Lara, and to some degree Yindel, and definitely Wonder Woman. It's like they're the ones that are coming to the forefront here.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Raul. I'm here from Chicago, and Frank, this question's for you. I've been following your career for a long, long time. My question to you is, having created Elektra, and in my personal opinion, she hasn't been handled very well on film. She's been handled okay on the Netflix series, but how would you, what powers would you give her? How would you recreate her for the 21st century?
Well, I can't comment on the other versions of them. I haven't seen them. But how would I recreate her for the 21st century? I consider she's based on an ancient Greek myth. I don't think that she'd need all that much recreation. It would mainly be how she would react to you know, whatever setting she's in. So I don't really think I'd change the character all that much. She is, in nature, she's got a very unpleasant job, and she's a deeply disturbed woman. So that would be mostly what the stories were about, that and whatever her task at hand was. The main mistake that has been made with Elektra down the line is people have desperately tried to turn her into a good guy. And she doesn't work as one. She's you know, what she is she's a villain that you can grow very fond of. And that she's in the Daredevil run, she was against a man who was in love with her, but it didn't stop her from being a bad guy. Like, not at heart, she's not mean or anything, but what's wrong in her head is too deep to ever get fixed. I did a whole graphic novel to kill her to make sure everybody knew that. She just keeps popping back up.
She will always be dead to me.
Thank you, Brian.
She will. That issue of Daredevil, I remember reading it.
He dug her up, for God's sake.
He could smell her rot. I'm reading this, of course, it was before I know you. It's like, this is brilliant. He's done. They can't bring this character back. It's like, he's doing everything he can to make sure his creation, the story ends here. This is where she stops.
Boy, was I wrong. Then they kept pushing and pushing and pushing, so I said, okay, I'm gonna do a graphic novel to bring her back and kill her again, so you'll know she's dead. And guess what, folks? They got this, I don't know, they got this tart dressed up in red running around and they're calling Elektra, but I'm not fooled.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Patrick from St. Charles, Illinois, and it's more of a technical question for both of you. Like when you were working with the Dark Knight, did you start with an outline of the story, and then you start collaborating more? Like you start building the script, and then showing it to Frank, and then you would do like thumbnails and sketches, and then you would pass it back and forth, or how did that really build up technically? And do you always use a script format when you're writing comics, or what format do you use? And Frank, thank you so much for the explanations you did with between brushes and pens when I mentioned this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You know what he started with? When I went over there the first time, it was like, he said you wanted to do Dark Knight 3, The Master Race. And I'm like, oh, what the hell are you getting me into?
Well, there's nothing like getting people's attention with a truly offensive title. Yeah.
But then he explained, it's like, the Kandorians get out of the bottle and they take over Earth. What else would they do?
What would a race of Superman, what would 9 million Supermen dropped on planet Earth be? What would we be?
So then, once that started, then like my mind starts going with it. It's like, okay, it's a pretty, we can go with that. And then, like I said, he had these blocks. I came back with the outline. He had, I want this moment, I want this moment, I want this moment, which was really, that was an interesting way for me to work, because I tend to work very, like, my stuff's all, it's like dominoes. So like, once it's done, I can knock it down. It does that. But
Beautiful way to describe it, right?
But I know the ending, yeah. So instead, I couldn't do dominoes because he was putting these massive blocks. And it's like, how do we get from there to there to there? So it was a real learning experience for me. It's a different way of working. Listen, Dark Knight has been such a good time for all four of us.
Yeah, luckily we did have some help, because we had these very, very sweet people who would take very sharp objects away from either of us while we were talking. Nobody got hurt, except my cat.
And then when we were done with it, we threw it at Andy and said, like, okay, you got to draw on this. But he was on board from day one too, and I mean, it's been a really good experience for me anyway.
Anything about DK floor?
What about it? It comes before 5.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Austin. I'm from Chicago. This is just a broader question, kind of for either of you. I'm also, an aspiring illustrator, writer, and there's times where I struggle with my vision and believing in myself, believing in my work, and I look at it and I say, oh, this isn't as good as what I've seen, or how can I be better? Were there moments in time at the beginning of your career when you faced this obstacle, and how did you overcome that to be the legends that you are today?
Well, I didn't just have moments where I thought I wasn't good enough. I had this gentleman named Neil Adams, who was very important mentor for me, and I'd go see him every few months to show him my work, and he would tell me I was no good. And he would tell me exactly why I was no good. And then he would pull out a piece of tracing paper and put it across my page, and he would really show me how bad it was by doing a much better job of what I'd done on top of it in rough marker. And so I would suffer through all this terrible, terrible punishment, and then I'd say, couldn't I keep that overlay? and he'd say, yeah, and I'd go back and I'd work right off that and do a much better job, and that's when I was able to turn it and get published. So yeah, you take a lot of hits on the way in.
We have time for 2 more questions, one from each side.
Hi, I'm Steven.
I'm from Minnesota.
No pressure, Steven. Better be a good question, though.
All right.
It better be a damn good question.
I'm going to ask it to Frank. I love your work, I love your art, and I've always read this story, and I wanted to know what your viewpoint is on it. I've heard that you've always wanted to write a Captain America story. And what direction would you take this story, especially in the modern era with Captain America? What's the story you'd like to tell?
What I'd want to do with Captain America would probably take place in World War II. And I've got a bit of an obsession about World War II. But what I would mostly want to focus on with Captain America is the essence of the stuff. I suppose my desire for it would be, a lot of it would be nostalgia. Doing a modern Captain America would be a fascinating problem. I don't know really what to do with it. I don't know when I said that. I'm sure I had a great idea in mind, but I don't know where it is now.
Thank you.
Thanks. Sorry for the bad answer.
Hi, I'm Andrew here from Chicago. My question is, in both your guys' vast and expansive careers, what is probably the best learning experience you ever had to help you catapult to where you are now?
Oh man, the best learning experience is
getting mugged, getting heartbroken.
Yeah, and getting rejection. It really is. Because, you know, I never thought I got rejected and I didn't deserve it. You know?
Boy, I'm glad you said that, Brian, because it's really true. It's like a lot of people nurse the wound and bellyache about it, saying they didn't realize what a genius I was. You know, sometimes you get rejected and it might be misjudgment, but there's a lesson in it.
Yeah.
You learn the rules of the operation or something. But it's usually, I think all of us wander in thinking that we're just walking on water.
Oh yeah.
And learning being told all the mistakes you're going to make is really valuable. One of the things I actually love about the publishing industry, obviously my experiences in comics, that's all I can really speak to, is that when I came in, at least people spoke very bluntly about what your shortcomings were, but they gave you another chance. I was never glad again. Told I was a genius, and then I not had my phone calls returned for a year. Never happened.
I mean, I've looked at portfolios and read aspiring writer scripts and that kind of stuff, and then they asked my advice. And I remember one afternoon, it was in San Diego. And, I was talking to this one writer. I was there with Will Dennis, who was my editor at the time, and we broke down his story that he wanted to do. The two of us were just like, this, try this, because he was pitching to Will to get into Vertigo, and he said, try this, and we just sort of like moved stuff around. And about 2 weeks later, Will calls me and says, like, remember we talked about it? He goes, yeah. And I said, did he send the script in? He goes, no. Everything you said, he ignored. I'm like, well. It's like, and he said he didn't understand why this kid got like such a valuable lesson, of just somebody help. I was just trying to help him out, but he knew better than I did. And that's the thing about rejection, man. When you don't know better than them when they're telling you no. Remember that, because you'll learn something now.
I mean, I remember one of my earliest experiences at DC Comics was when I had some little. This was back when DC Comics would start people out doing horror stories. In their anthology titles, and I got some dinky little 3-pager that paid a whopping $25 a page for finished black and white artwork, pencils and inks, and Joe Orlando was the editor back then. And so I met old Joe Orlando, and he was a really sweet guy, Joe Orlando was. And when he told me exactly how bad my work was, two things about it. One was, he didn't just tell me how bad my work was, he told me exactly how bad it was, in every respect. And in very harsh terms, but at the same time, his face was showing me he was in more pain than I was, telling me that, because he was such a good guy. And it was one of those times where he just told me just how dreadful it was, and how I was useless, and there was no reason for me being in his room. And then I said, can I go back home and redo it? And he said, sure. Then I redid it, and that was not only accepted but published. But it was, that was the way to learn.
Yeah.
It was not easy, but there was no glad handing at all.
I mean, like I said too, I've learned stuff working on this project with you. It's just keep learning.
Oh yeah, we learn from each other. We have to. It's like it's kind of fun because when we're talking, we're pretty brutal with each other and direct about when we have bad ideas too. One of the great things about when you're collaborating is you can come up with a real stinker and you feel free to do it because you've got a safety net. There's somebody there who just say that stinks. There's no harm done. Yeah. It's one of those who farted moments.
I think that's where we're gonna end.
Oh,